Hey guys, interesting one today. I saw a release by Benton Resources with regard to some, quite good drill results. But my immediate question is, what exactly are they doing? What exactly are they chasing, and how are they going about it? Stephen kindly agreed to come on the show and tell us all about it. So, Stephen, over to you.
Yeah, it's Stephen Stairs here, Benton Resources, symbol BEX. I'm the TSX venture. We've been listed for nearly 20 years now. And this project, the Great Burnt project, is turning out substantial results. I'd like to run through a quick presentation and kind of give the viewers an idea of what we have, the size of project we have, and the commodities we're chasing, which is gold and copper.
Definitely. And before you do those, Stephen, I mean, talk me through this press release, because we're talking, 74 plus meters at 1.4 gram gold. And in this kind of positive gold environment, obviously, I think lots of people are thinking about how they get after certain projects. So do you mind sort of giving us the headlines of the kind of drill program?
Yeah, so we're currently in about 3,200 meters, chasing a 3 kilometer long magnetic anomaly. This was done by doing very detailed magnetic survey. The ore type is semi-massive to massive pyrrhotite and chalcopyrite, and the pyrrhotite is very magnetic. So the geophysics works extremely well. But outside of that, the geology has been compressed by folding and structurally complexed. But with a lot of detail mapping, relogging of old core, we've kind of put a model together that seems to be very much working for us. And I can take that through during the presentation.
Okay, well, fine. Let's jump to that then. So here we are. It's up on the screen now.
Sounds good, Matt. So yeah, Benton, high-grade copper gold project in Newfoundland. Obviously, forward-looking statements. This is not a buy recommendation, as I have to say. Enormous potential in this belt. I'll go through it. It's got some historical work, but excellent infrastructure. We got a power dam nearby, road accessibility. It don't have any towns or environmental concerns, lakes, creeks, or rivers that immediately in the ore zones. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for a mining project. And of course, we've completed over 12,000 meters drilling in the first 3 phases. We've only owned this project for less than a year. And now we're into about 3,500 currently in the current program, and going to be moving somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 meters before we got to raise more money and go drilling. So geology, we have 25 kilometers of the favorable stratigraphy and structure that host all the mineralization. And within that 25 kilometers, there's 6 known occurrences, 3 deposits, and they're coming together rapidly. We're expanding on them over 15 kilometers. So we're doing a lot of work in that 15 kilometers, but realistically, we have another 10 to 12 kilometers that we have to do a lot of work on for further discoveries. And we believe that's going to be achievable in the future. The model type is a Beshi type VMS system. We're not quite sure about the actual gold deposits itself, if it's been overprinted onto the VMS systems, but this is just a cartoon, taken from a general, model type of the Beshi model, which you get event material, and then you get the massive sulfides flowing out on the sea floor. And of course, this is before any metamorphism, any folding, so forth happens. So with our detail mapping and work we've done with a guy by the name of Richard Cooley, plus geophysicist Alan King, my brother Mick, who's done all the ground geophysics at a very detailed scale, the models start coming together relatively quickly. And that model basically is, you'll see this top picture, which is a really simple cartoon of the VMS deposit being formed, which is, generally copper gold in this system. Then it gets the initial stage of foldings and the east-west compression, then tightening of the folds due to continental collides, etc., green schist metamorphism. And then, of course, you get some erosion. But essentially what happens is that the massive sulfides gets compressed into a ball, and then you'll have limbs off of that ball from the from the limbs of the folds. So targeting that was very difficult in the past, and that's just purely that the previous explorers would go, they looked at the stratigraphy and they drilled a hole across it. They really weren't targeting the sulfide zone, they were targeting the stratigraphy. So the gold is in the sulfides, so we needed to target the sulfides. This is just a geophysical map of the main Great Burnt deposit showing two parallel zones. The east zone is the gold zone, which is kind of what we're chasing in the north part of the project. And then the west zone is the copper horizon. To the north, we only have two known real copper deposits, which is the Great Burnt and one way far to the north. But the gold horizon seems to continue almost for the whole 15 kilometers. So we've got sporadic gold all the way through, but it's only been tested, sporadically over that distance. But in detail, up to the north 3 kilometers, that's where we're targeting now for the first phase of this gold drilling. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself with the copper stuff, but these are just the historical results that we've released in the last year. Beautiful copper intercepts in the main Great Burnt deposit, 13 meters of 8, 13 meters of 5, etc., etc. You can see these numbers on our website. Geophysics definitely helps. Our first 2 rounds of drilling in the Great Burnt deposit, we conducted downhole geophysics to extend the main deposit from 600 meters to 850 meters. And our last campaign, we drilled one single hole, which is 200 meter step out from there. So this is the plates that was identified, and we drilled in our third phase, which was very successful. And the third phase is basically the orange stars in which you see in the center of the page and chasing the deposit down plunge. And hole 48 was a 200 meter step out. Now, we did hit the right geology and we hit some stringer mineralization, but ultimately now we have to pulse that hole with the same geophysical technique, and then we'll re-drill to narrow in on where the zone would go. This would actually put the deposit over just over 1.05 kilometers long. So that would be a substantial increase of finding this deposit. This is just a copper resource. Now we're going to move on to the gold horizon up to the north. So the gold horizon to the north, over 3 kilometers of strike length, historical drill holes. The most untested area was the very north part. We've got 6 drill holes in that right now, which is at the main South Pond copper gold deposit. And that's not been touched since the 1970s with drilling. So all this new drilling is fresh NQ core. So we expect better recoveries and hopefully better grades. And then we moved a kilometer south of that to where Spruce Ridge Resources drilled substantial gold intercepts of 1.7 grams gold over 51 meters, and 20 meters of 2 grams, et cetera, et cetera. So what we've done is we've taken that data, we utilized it where we're going to drill a hole vertical down through the mag anomalies and then across it. So we get a height of the zone in the compressed folding, and then we get the width of the zone. And that's been very successful to date. These are just some of the soil anomalies that's parallel to those zones that have to be tested in the future. The magnetic anomaly, as I mentioned, over 3 kilometers long and open-ended. We got to do a lot more mag to the south now to extend that. And we are now testing that black arrow to the south with new drilling. This is the very detailed mag anomaly that we're talking about that we're testing. Historically, the green holes are what was tested by either Noranda Mining, Celtic Minerals, Spruce Ridge Resources, and now Benton is narrowed in on what the mineralization is doing and how we're going to delineate the ore zone. There was just about all these holes hit gold, but sometimes they would just hit like a meter or 2 meters of 1, 2, 3 gram material. And then they would just think the gold zone was skinny. But that's not the case. We believe at those intercepts, they were either drilled just over or under the compressed massive sulfide lens. And this is what we're talking about. This is a model that we made up. The surface you can see is a mag high peak, and that mag high peak is seeing something buried under the ground, which is the massive pyrrhotite. So the previous holes were drilled, this is just a model. So that one intercept that you see here might only be a couple meters, and then they hit a couple meters below it, thinking it's just one lens. But ultimately, we're starting to drill vertical holes, and then we would fill a hole across that red unit and give us height and thickness of where we're getting the grades. And in that case, we relogged a bunch of core. We took Spruce Ridge's old holes and plotted them against the mag anomalies, and then we came up with this model. So there's even mag anomalies that are not tested with drilling. So that's a part of our program that we're doing now, and we see that coming true. So hole number 2 and 3, we tested the mag anomaly. This is 50 meters north or 40 meters north of where Spruce Ridge had 51 meters of 1.7 grams, and we cut 43 meters of similar grade, 1.62, and then we scissored it to see where the zone was going or if it had any folding. And just below that, we cut half a gram over 11 meters. But you have to remember, we're targeting the top 50 to 60 meters. That's the open pit potential that we're looking for. So what we're looking for is a shallow 1.5, 2 gram deposit that's amenable to open pit mining and easily extractable without, too much dilution on the waste rock. So same thing for the next section down. This is where Spruce Ridge did drill to 51 meters. So we basically drilled a hole that was trying to find the height of the deposit. And we cut 1.13 over 18 meters in that hole. So again, just trying to get the dimensions on the ore zone close to surface. And we're going to do that for the whole 3 kilometers. It's going to take a lot of drilling, probably 40, 50 meter sections. But at the end, we're open to be able to come out with a fairly sizable resource when chasing this deposit. Plus, of course, we're looking for those high-grade shoots, which, could appear. We do have sections in these larger intercepts of 11 grams over 1 meter. I think there's 5.5 grams over 2 meters, and such. So there are higher grade sections that we can chase with this model that we're using. Again, this is one of the bigger holes that we had. We actually drilled down the zone. Now, this just makes it look like it's just a solid, straight, sulfide zone. But in fact, inside that orange, that rock is compressed and folded. And there's all kinds of tight folding all the way up through the zone. So it's very complex, but ultimately it's starting to come together. And it's just going to take a lot of drilling to add this section to section. But nevertheless, so far, our model is working very, very well. Outside of that, we have this very large magnetic anomaly that we completed a soil program over, especially on the south portion. So down where that red circle is basically the circle that we see on the left. Those grades are really high grade nickel values in soil. So up to 0.17% nickel, so 1,700, lots of 800, 900 nickel, and that anomaly continues for several kilometers to the north. And of course, this rock unit is believed to be exactly the same unit as our neighbor to the east, which is First Atlantic Nickel chasing a Warite. Now, we do have some grab samples in that portion of the ultramafic complex that grade about 0.2 to 0.22 nickel. So there is a good possibility we have a very large nickel associated with a Warite in this complex. So we're going to look at that in the future. And interestingly enough, there are conductors along the edge of this complex. So it could be magmatic copper nickel potential as well. But again, it's not something we're focused on, but it's something we're paying attention to, and we might drill a couple holes across it in the coming year. So the milestones are we've drilled 12,000 meters already in the first three phases. We're in about 3,500 meters in phase 4 right now. Surface EM downhole pulse will be completed in the next few months to target the extension of the copper deposit at Great Burnt. And of course, the goal is to drill another couple hundred holes at the South Pond horizon and delineate a gold resource within the next 12 months. So it's a fairly aggressive plan. I think it's completely achievable from the success we've had in the first 25 holes that we've drilled on the South Pond deposit right now. And of course, the success we've had at the Great Burnt deposit. I mean, I don't think, I rarely see a company that's completed the amount of work that we had with this amount of success we've had. So I anticipate that success will continue as we unfold, the treasures in this project. So we're pretty excited, about the future. Outside of that, of course, we're spinning out Vinland Lithium, which is financed by Piedmont Lithium, one of the bigger U.S. Lithium companies. And that process is well underway. We're working with the TSX Venture to get that listed as soon as possible. And we're hoping that will be done before the end of the year. So we'll be making an announcement on that at due course when we have all the information that we need to provide to shareholders. In addition to that, of course, we are the biggest shareholder of Clean Air Metals, which has a beautiful platinum, palladium, copper, nickel resource just north of Thunder Bay. They've put out some spectacular results in the last little while. Their stock has gone from 3 cents to 7 to 8 cents. And so we're pretty happy to be a shareholder. And we also own a 0.5% royalty on those deposits. So there's a lot of upside for Benton, in those plays. So any questions, Matt, we can continue on the interview, and happy to get this out to our shareholders and into the public.
Okay, well, like Stephen, I appreciate you running through. That kind of answers a lot of my questions with regards to how you're coming at this. And I think interestingly, some of the projects and holdings that sit outside of the company as well. It's great. Stephen, look, I'm going to actually let people digest that, and they can ask you questions, and maybe you can come back on and answer some of those things. But for now, it's, I guess, head down with the drill program. Will we be seeing more results soon?
Yeah, very soon. I'm expecting within the next 10 days to have another at least 2 or 3 holes back. So we'll be putting out regular releases as soon as we get the holes back and compiled for release. But from what we see visually, the zone is fairly continuous, and we just got to keep on it, get the geometry right. I mean, these things could be stacked and have a certain plunge to them as well. It could be multiple zones. At this point, it's a little early in the game to call it one continuous zone, but certainly we'd welcome five stack zones that we can chase down plunge like Great Burnt, and be able to be amenable to open pit mining and possibly even underground mining if the grade if we can get the grade there. So we're pretty excited about this project. There's no question.
Stephen, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.